Welcome back to the 2018 SF Green Film Festival podcast interview series. With us today, we have local filmmaker Marcy Cravat, who will be screening her film Dirt Rich at this year's festival. Hi, Marcy. It's so great to have you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. Well, before we dive into the interview, I wanted to give a little background about your film Dirt Rich. So, Dirt Rich investigates the implementation of various carbon drawdown techniques as a way to safely return our atmosphere to safe levels of carbon and promote the growth of the world's soil. So, the first question that I have for you that I was hoping you could answer was about regenerative agriculture. And the film states that it's important to not replace industrial agriculture with industrial organic agriculture, and instead with regenerative agriculture. So, how exactly does regenerative agriculture differ from industrial organic agriculture?
Well, regenerative farming is pretty much what the name states. It's regenerating everything. This, whatever you take from the plants that you grow, the food that you pick, the animals that you raise, goes eventually back into the soil, providing nutrition for the soil, microbial opportunities for life in the soil. So it's a closed loop system. Um, And there are strategies to do that, which regenerative farmers really understand and which we cover in the film. But our organic farmers may or may not employ these strategies. And although it's very important and it's a great first step to choose organic, definitely over anything that's industrially raised or farmed, because you want to avoid the pesticides and herbicides and fungicides that come with the industrial agriculture. And you also want to provide better lives for the animals that we should really cut down on eating. We eat too many, and we honestly should try to cut them out completely. But that's a pretty tall order for a lot of people. So the better option would be to raise them in a regenerative fashion. So the organic farmers may be doing a lot of things like not using those synthetic inputs. However, they may still be tilling the soil too much and exposing it to sun and oxygen too much so that the soil becomes depleted. And what regenerative farming does is it makes the soil a part of the loop, and it always is considering putting back what we've taken. So it's sort of the next step, from organic farming. It would be the next step up in terms of doing things the right way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I really haven't heard that much about regenerative farming. But just like from what it seems like, I think definitely there's so many benefits that can really help out, especially the soil, which I think isn't necessarily talked enough about.
Right, right.
So with the next question, so the film emphasizes the ways in which we can learn from how nature already naturally takes care of the planet, such as beavers preserving carbon-rich soils in wetlands. So I was wondering, how can an individual help his or her local community shift the ways in which we think about our soil and dirt?
Well, I think that one of the first things we can do is understand how the systems work. When you understand how any system works, for that matter, not just this, but any system, it puts you in a more informed place to make good decisions. And so your decisions are not only based on a whim or based on something you think you want, they're based on an understanding that everything really connects. And I think this is actually good advice for just about understanding any system, be they farming systems, medical systems, political systems, whatever they are.
Mm.
So I think that if you want to make good choices, and you have this understanding, then it's going to be really truly based on an understanding that it is not just something to say that everything connects, but that it really truly does. So the animals that you speak of, that you mentioned, that are also in our film and really kind of popular in our film because beavers are so interesting to watch and so lovable, the same as with the prairie dogs and the orangutans that we show in our film. These animals are providing an incredible service to us, much like bees. And it's not, people are not really aware of it. So when they're moved or killed or eliminated, or to put in a strip mall, or to drain a wetland, or to cut down a forest, or for whatever reason, we are missing out on the free services that these geniuses have been providing for us since the beginning of their existence. Beavers, for example, keep water on the landscape for us, especially during the hot, dry months of the summer. And they do that by slowing down that snow melt coming from the mountains. And they create these wetlands. And within these wetlands, there's an abundance of life because they're a keystone species and they're providing life for all of these other animals that depend on them. And it's not just animals, it's also insects and microbes. And what they do is they provide these very, very rich soil ponds that are not oxygenated. The oxygen doesn't reach the peat that has been building up in these soils over years and years and years. And so they're holding carbon in the soil forests as well, which is a huge issue right now, given that we have too much carbon in our air. So why would we want to drain a wetland to put in a strip mall? Why would we not want to try to work around the beavers and give them the space they need to do the work that they're doing for us for free? And, you can pretty much say that about just about any animal. And people would be surprised at how many keystone species are doing huge jobs. Dung beetles, for example, is another keystone species. They're pushing soil around, aerating soil. If we understand this all and investigate it and explore it more, I think we'd be more prone to protect these animals and not allow man to go in there and dominate the land in a way that is really destructive for everyone.
Yeah, well, going back to, I guess, the topic of soil, one of the most, I think, impactful statistics mentioned in the film was that scientists only estimate 65 more harvests left due to depleted soil.
Mm-hmm.
So what crucial steps must be done immediately in order to prevent this future?
Well, the film really illustrates the strategies that it sort of walks the viewer through, takes the viewer on a journey through strategies. And all of these strategies, I personally believe, should be implemented immediately. So you mentioned regenerative farming. Within the context of regenerative farming, there are all kinds of sub-strategies, things like no-till the soil, holistic grazing management, where you move animals around and don't allow them to overgraze one area, trying more or less to mimic the way that the natural systems work, the way the bison were, more or less moved along through the prairie by predators, and they would move along and leave their dung and urine behind. And they would cycle back through at the end of the season, and the grasses would have had a chance to grow again because they were stimulated by they're munching them down a bit, but not overgrazed. And then the dung and urine they leave behind fertilizes those grasses. And then they move along because the predators are pushing them along. And then when they come back the next season, all of the grasses are growing very well again. So basically, we look at these strategies. We also look at how we can protect forests. Forests, again, are another closed-looped system where their growth and decay is very precisely managed. And when we interrupt that system, we need to be very, very careful. If we're going to pull trees out of there for any reason at all, we need to understand how we're doing that so that we're not destroying the matriarchal setup of those trees in that forest. Those old mother trees that have been there for all those thousands or hundreds or thousands of years are providing a network under the ground that we can't see. And they are providing life for all kinds of fungi and microbial life. They're pulling the nutrients down through photosynthesis, and there's everybody down under the soil that we can't see that's interacting with each other. And so we need to look at how the regenerative farming techniques help maintain that, but we also have to be careful where and what we grow. We only should grow things in places where they naturally grow. And so that means not cutting down forests or not draining wetlands to put in something that we want. We need to work around it. So again, it comes back to understanding how the systems work so that we have an appreciation for them, and so that we do not destroy what's already working for us.
Wonderful. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about biochar as well as a technique in terms of preventing kind of like depleted soil.
Mm-hmm. Well, biochar, interestingly enough, was what the whole film was going to be about. It's a really rich topic, and when we set out to make this film, the whole film was going to be on biochar.
Mm.
But it was not too long before, after we started filming, that we realized that the biochar was intricately intermeshed with all of these other topics, that they dovetail, so it felt like we needed to keep opening the door to more and more of these different strategies and understand them. So biochar is basically a charcoal that's made in a machine without oxygen. So you can make it naturally in a pit by the way you stack the wood to encourage ingestion of its own oxygen, so you're not creating smoke. And you end up, if you put the fire out before the matter biomass that you're burning turns to ash, you're left basically with the charcoal type substance. And it's very porous and it's very carbon rich because it's sequestered the carbon. It's sort of locked it there and held it there. So when you put this biochar mixed with compost or soil or mixed with organic matter into the earth, it creates these porous homes that microbes can move into, and it also holds moisture in the soil because it's porous. It soaks water up like a sponge, and it basically sequesters the carbon that would be released if it was allowed to decay. Because when things decay, they release their gases and then they go up into the atmosphere. And so this way you're holding it in the soil, and you're actually you're providing sort of a canvas for all of the other living things in the soil to work off of. So it's a really incredible technique, and it's not hard to do. We show in the film how to do it, and I was very impressed with biochar, so much so that, like I say, we thought we were going to make a whole film of it. We do devote 20 minutes in the film to biochar, so it still is a substantial part of our film.
Well, as a creator of art and filmmaking, I was wondering if you could answer, why are the arts ever important to promoting collective action towards increasing environmental issues?
Well, I think artists are reflectors of what's going on in society, on our planet, in our environments. Artists, they take ideas and they contemplate them, and then they figure out a way to apply their artistic skills to share a viewpoint that is yearning to be born from them. And they're an important part, I believe, of society. I think that people they gravitate towards art and music and theater and literature. They gravitate towards it because I do believe that many, many people have a lot of curiosity and they want to understand things better. And the artistic impression of how things work is interesting to look at, to listen to read about. And so it's really hard to underestimate the value of artistic contribution. Dance is another one. All of these things like I say, are a reflection of what's really going on our planet. And some artists investigate that more deeply with a message, and others more or less emote a feeling that they have. And it's all important. It's all important. And I think there's an artist in all of us, even if we don't consider ourselves a professional artist. There's that creative artistic side in everybody. And I think when we learn and understand that our thoughts actually create reality, then we will be a little more attuned to the creative impulses that we have. And so I would say that it's really that artists are really an important part of bringing people together.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for talking. That's actually all I have for you today.
Okay, perfect. Well, it was really fun to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Well, make sure that you check out Dirt Rich at this year's San Francisco Green Film Festival. Yeah, thank you so much again.
Okay, thank you so much. Look forward to meeting you at the festival.